Hi, I'm Helly.
And I'm Meghna.
We are the woman in your corner.
And today we're going to be talking about brand. So let's get into it. So, Helly, I wanted to start with talking about this. So, this campaign is a result of a conversation that we had a long time ago, probably one of our earlier conversations. And it was like someone's intense journey that you were a part of, and that kind of started us on this. Can you talk us through a little bit of what had happened?
Yeah, of course. You know, exactly that. It's someone's journey for their better life or their personal development. I got to experience it firsthand, which I felt was a blessing, right? So ultimately, what happened, some context is, I had the opportunity to, mentor someone and they were applying for positions. And at the end of the day, right, we went through the resume, we had our feelings about how the reviews went and the interviews went and all of that stuff. And when it came down to it, you know, at the very end, she didn't get the job. And it was totally fine. We can take constructive criticism, but when we looked at the recruiter and the interviewer's notes, it literally was as crystal clear as this, Mega. Like it was like, resumes were on par, right? Interviews were on par, answers were on par, education was on par, experience was on par, and like the last different thing was online, right? This person was super accredited, super followed, influential, right? And had like all of their skills accredited on LinkedIn. Where, my friend in this journey she had, hers was like 40% there, right? And this other individual was like, I mean, I looked at theirs. It was phenomenal. Their profile looked like they were influencing full time, right?
Yeah.
So it came down to that thing, down to that brand. And for me, that was like the light bulb moment. I think for her too, right? But even for me, I'm not in the process. I'm not very into this. It was like, oh my gosh, that's so right. I know today is online, but
Mhm.
little do we know is like as we progress in the future, like that brand online influences a multitude
Everything.
of things. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy to think that.
Yeah, it's almost as if that kind of influences every aspect of your life, right? And I don't think I've ever thought of myself as a brand before we had that conversation because it was like, oh yeah, I put some stuff on my LinkedIn, I keep it updated. But I don't think I ever wondered or imagined that recruiters would be using that to judge my credibility because it's like, oh, you will judge my work based on when you get to know me and when I work for you. But this is kind of like a sneak peek into you and your work, depending on how much people know you, how many people know you, what they talk about you. So your online brand is everything at this point. Have you ever considered yourself a brand, or is that like a more recent change as well?
Good question. I think for me it was like twofold. I'm telling you, like the light bulb went off, and I'm with you. Where it's like, you know, I'm millennium. I'm a millennium. Millennial. Millennial. My
Millennial.
gosh. Scratch that. Okay, restart.
Yes, we are making millennium. So
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, ready, restart. Good question. I am totally with you on that, right? Where it's like I have considered myself a brand, right? Especially I would say in my professional career. But, when it comes to the generation I am, right? We grew up with social media. I mean, technology was like secondhand with us. I hardly remember the times of going out and playing outside versus, oh, there's a new console or there's a new video game. And so for me, it was like, okay, in my professional world, yes, I'm somebody who's punctual and I try to be kind and humble and I'm always willing to learn. But that's like a professional, right? Me as an individual, I'm with you. I've never thought about myself as a brand or like my capabilities. And so when you ask, have you always thought of it? No, I haven't. I've thought of myself, I've separated them. But like now that we come to today's world, they're not that separate, right? Like, and I understand, want to call out, maybe not every recruiter is doing this, but as the market gets more competitive, this is something you have to consider, especially with platforms like LinkedIn, right? Those are made in the professional realm. So
Mm.
it's like, okay, I understand maybe not Instagram being used or Twitter or Facebook, but stuff like LinkedIn, absolutely, your network, your following, your accredited skills, the things you've uploaded, articles, things like that could have a wavering on your effect. So I didn't always, but I definitely am now. It's crazy. I feel like for me in this, if I can keep going, I I have always loved social media. I have. And I've definitely been more on the like I'm loving it side, right? I was the
Yeah.
girl that wanted to take the photos and like, do all the like trending things and I'll still try out the trends. But for me, as I'm like progressing, I'm realizing it's a little difficult for me because I want to love it, but I'm also seeing like there's pros and cons. It's also overwhelming at times. So like I don't know, like, what have you done or how is your relationship with social media? Are you feeling the same way as we talk about like, okay, now it was just professional, but now you potentially get graded for it and this is what they look at as you go into new careers? I mean, how do you feel about all this?
It's actually very interesting. So I same, like I have a very love-hate relationship with social media, like all of it, in terms of like I never want to post too much. For me, it just feels like, why would anybody want to see this? Or like, oh, what if I post this and it looks a little weird, or like it gets interpreted as something else, even though I meant something else. Like there's always all of those like things that go through the back of my mind. And then I'm like, oh, it's just not worth it. Like, let's leave it, right? And like for me, LinkedIn becomes the biggest of those all. Like, you see so many posts on LinkedIn with people sharing like personal things about their life, professional things about their life. You'll see like dog pictures, baby pictures, almost everything at this point. And then like even if it'll be like a work accomplishment or something, I'll like put it there, like put up a picture, write a post, and then I'll be like, but why would anybody want to read this? Like, I don't think this is like, interesting for them. It was like something that I did, or like something that made me happy, but it's not necessary. It's going to be exciting for them. So then I just like end up scrapping it. And
Oh my
so these days, like I've been trying to push myself more to do that, because I guess the same thing, right? Part of our like conversation of brand, that like I think the world that we live in, it's almost impossible to not represent yourself online and expect to be able to be fully successful in everything you want to do,
totally
right?
agree.
And it's just I haven't fully accepted it yet. I don't think I fully made my peace with being able to share like as much as I need to, but I think it's like baby steps in that direction, that I'm slowly getting more comfortable with it. I'm realizing like, oh, it's okay, like even if four people like enjoy my post or write a comment on it, it's fine, right? Like it's more like, oh, I'm being consistent with myself. I'm sharing
Yeah,
something that's meaningful to me, that's something on point with my brand, something I believe in, right? So if it's something about sustainability, something about women empowerment, something about helping provide like access to information for people, that's my passion, that's what I care about. So even if it like reaches one person out there and it helps them, I think it was worth it. So that's kind of the approach that I'm trying to take in my mind.
and
So
that's a good approach. I'm like, that
yeah,
speaks volumes to me because I mean, I would say I'm a little bit more on the love side, right? Like
yeah,
I've always loved social media, but it goes back to even like the first question, like why we started this, right? Is for me, it was very clear. It's like you kept them dynamic. I am Helly consistently in my life, but there is a specific version of Helly that you get, right? That may not share every photo of her dog or every photo at Thanksgiving in the work realm. I won't, right? And I'm with you. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to. And one, I don't know if people really gravitate towards it. Now, if somebody would have asked me, I definitely have always been the type of person that's like, oh yeah, I had Thanksgiving. Do you want to see a picture? Or this is my dog's new haircut, right? But I wasn't one just to boastfully. Now, Instagram, on the other hand, I mean, you're probably anybody listening, watching, you're probably looking at my feed. I will share all the photos on every travel vacation. Look at the turtle I petted. Look at the elephants I fed.
yeah.
Right, I'm all about that. So, like, that's that
Mhm.
version of Helly because I do feel like maybe someone is more up tuned to like it in that realm, right? And plus, for me, a lot of that social media came from my parents being able to keep up with me, right? It was one of those, like, pivotal moments, I think even with, like, nieces, nephews, cousins is, like,
Yeah.
back in the day, we watched Kim Possible, if you know what Kim Possible
Yeah.
is. You're my girl. And, like, when Wayne would call her on the phone, beep her, and it was like, "Oh my god, it's so cool that she's videoing him." But I'll tell you what, now somebody videos me and I'm like, "Don't video me, just message me, just
Yeah.
I'm like, "I don't wanna be on video right now." So by sharing it to, like, those forums, like an Instagram or a story, they can just keep up with me, right? Like, "Oh, yeah,
Mhm.
Helly's here and that." And then, when they call later or we chat later, they're like, "Oh my god, okay, pull up your pictures. I saw this one and I loved it. Tell me about this picture because I wanna know what you were feeling," or it's kind of a different way to connect. So I am with you with it's difficult now trying to blend the 2 appropriately, in my opinion, and I don't know if I have the right opinion, right? That's just me. But also, going back to the question of why we started this thing, like, why we think brand is so important and why we think you should get behind it, right? Is
Mhm.
when it comes to areas of even your personal growth, definitely your career growth, in my opinion, your brand on like a LinkedIn matters, right? Your network, your pool, what you've been accredited to, all of that matters. And a split decision when you have two amazing people and you need to pick one of them. If everything else matches, it makes total sense when I read those recruiters' notes and that experience. It was like, okay, if everything matches and they literally almost have to flip a coin, but they want to have some data behind it, yeah, go to their LinkedIn, right? That is a professional
Mhm.
platform. Go to it, cross analyze it, cross compare it, and that guy's profile was just better. It was there, it was good, and that's where we can learn and grow. So totally get it. When you talk about like, okay, we have to do this, feeling a little uncomfortable, I'm with you. I think I feel less
Mhm.
uncomfortable on
Yep.
the spectrum.
Yep.
I'm sure there's other people who are definitely like us, maybe who are some that can show us how to do it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you think we will get over this hump? Like, how will you get over that feeling of, "I kinda have to do this," right? This is like an online
Exactly.
resume. You have to put
Mhm.
a resume and brag about yourself in general. You've always have, right? Bring your
Yep.
resume, that's been a standard practice. Now everything's digital, now it's online. LinkedIn is your resume. How are you gonna get over that to, like, brag, to post, to be in the community on LinkedIn?
So I think I'm like in different ways getting over that like speed bump to say. I would say it's in various different folds. So I've started thinking of LinkedIn as even if you have 1,000 people that follow you on LinkedIn or like that you're connected with, I've started thinking of that as an extension of my network, right? They are a part of my network. It's not, oh, we don't necessarily talk every day. It's not like I have a conversation with them, but I now think of it as like these are the people in my professional network, so they should be a part of my professional journey in what I'm doing, how I'm growing, things I would want them to know, whether it's a future employer, whether it's for finding new opportunities, whether it's just to grow with people, right? Even if it's like, oh, I've started doing a course in Python, and like somebody else is like, well, I did this and I found it helpful, right? You get those opportunities to learn and grow together. So now instead of trying to take the pressure of like, oh, if I don't brand myself, I'm not going to survive the future, or like, how am I going to find a job? Because it almost feels like apocalyptic when you start thinking that way. I've kind of tried to put the focus on the benefits of it, the focus
Yeah.
on the positives of what it brings to my life, how I can leverage it to my advantage, and to the things that I believe in, right? There's no one size that fits all. It can't be that, oh, you should go brand yourself because it's great for you. You should go brand yourself because it's going to make you popular, or you're going to get the right opportunities at your door, right? There's no one size fits all, but it's more about making it customized for yourself so that it fits you and your size and what you need. So that's kind of the adjustment that I'm going through right now on my journey. And I think it's been helpful. Like I've tried to become more open. I've tried to share things that I'm passionate, and that really connects with me because I care about those things. So yeah.
I love that. I agree. I agree. I've been one where I don't necessarily have a problem, like you said, posting,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't post enough. I can tell you that right now, right? I don't think every my accomplishment, yes, I might toast to it here. I might go get Chick-fil-A. I might go get my Starbucks as an accomplishment, but I don't post it. And so for me, I think it's easier for me to post, but I'm definitely with you on that approach where it's like, this is something I'm happy about. And if I could help someone else do that. Sorry, my dog is squeaking the toy in the background, so hopefully you hear that. That's what that is. It's my little dog. He'll make an appearance shortly. Um, I think, hey, yeah, I'm gonna share this just for even my documentation, right? For me to look back and think about, hey, I was once somebody who maybe thought I wasn't going to make it, or was somebody who was scared, right, to make that leap and interview, or who even thought, I'm not going to do public speaking. Nobody will listen to me,
Yeah,
or I'm not going to run that workshop. And by just talking through my experience, you'll learn that so many people identify with what you're going through actually, and
exactly.
are also maybe a little timid or nervous to say that as well. Like, hey, I'm having trouble landing a job, or I'm having trouble interviewing. I'm having trouble even just trying to figure out where to go next. And by
Mhm.
sharing some of these things, you're right. That network relays on you as their network. And then before you know it, yeah, they may not be somebody you talk to every day, but they become somebody who's instrumental to your
Mhm.
happiness, whether that be leveling up or staying where you're at in life or your career moving forward. So I totally agree.
That's how you build the women in your corner, right? Like I was
Yes.
thinking the same thing. I was like, oh, even if I post something and nobody sees it, at least you will. And like, the same.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, yeah, you always
Yeah.
have those people. And like, same for like everybody listening, that it's like you find those people and you build that network the same way, right? It was the same for us finding each other through that journey and like building it together. So I think on
Yeah.
that note, we can call today's segment a close. So this was a good conversation on how to build your brand, how to like understand your brand, what it is. So yeah,
Thank you for joining us today.
this is Making Millennium, and we are the women in your corner.